Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Community Home Investment Program, our CHIP program, and this is our 2021 grant application webinar. My name is Tonya Lewis. I am the current CHIP manager. I've been with DCA since January of this year. I started, fortunately, right before the pandemic started, so it's been a interesting ride, but it's also been a very fulfilling ride. And like we've had a meeting earlier today, it brings our team closer because we actually do a lot of meetings in this type of arena now through webinars, through Zoom meetings. So welcome, everyone. I also want to introduce my team that's online. We have Samantha Cavallo, and she is our office director for our home program. And Linda Ballard, she is our compliance coordinator with the CHIP program. So she would be one of the team members that you would actually have direct contact with during your CHIP process once you're awarded. The purpose of this webinar is to provide an overview of the CHIP program. We're looking at the 2021 application, and what we want to go over today are the changes for the 2020 application, an overview of the application. We want to take a look at our scoring criteria and also submission instructions. A little bit of housekeeping is that in order to ask questions, you can add them to our chat, or you can, I believe there's a feature where you can raise your hand and ask a question. Sometimes I can kind of get into the presentation, so Samantha will be available to kind of take a pause for me to let me know what is in the chat box or if someone has their hand raised, because I, at this point, can't see anything. Also, everyone will be muted so that we don't have a lot of background interference. And we also, just as we did earlier before the presentation, we're going to take some time after the presentation to unmute everyone so that if you have additional questions about the CHIP application process, you can ask it in an open setting, or if you just want to have a conversation, we'll be available after the presentation. Basically, we just want everyone to feel welcome and feel open to ask any questions. This is not a format where it's going to be structured where you just, no one can ask. I feel engaged. Feel free to engage as needed. And we're going to get started. So a little bit about the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. We have federal and state funding where we provide multi-family rental development, housing counseling, down payment assistance, rental assistance, and our homeless shelter and services. The CHIP program focuses on our single-family home development and our single-family home repairs. So that's basically what our application process, our application covers is our housing rehab program, as well as new construction single-family development. The Georgia Department of Community Affairs has over 65 programs. We have over 400 employees. We had a meeting earlier, and I believe it was maybe 15 or 18 people that'll be joining our team tomorrow. So that's really shows the growth of the programs, our department, because even during this pandemic, we still have people that are joining our team. And it's a wonderful place to be. We provide over we receive over $3 million in funding from federal and state. And our services include affordable housing, community development, economic development, and also planning. Any questions? So what is CHIP? CHIP is an acronym for Community Home Investment Program. We're funded with federal dollars from the HOME program from HUD. Our homeowners and home buyers as a household cannot exceed 80% of the area median income for their county. We are not a direct beneficiary program. We award nonprofits, governments, and public housing authorities the direct funding, and they award their funds in the area that they cover. We average 10 to 15 grants per year, and our awards are from $3 million to $7 million annually. So this just shows a brief little description of what we awarded last year. We provided 13 awards. We provided funding to, as you see, cities across the state. We also had a county and a few nonprofits and one public housing authority. So you see that we try to diversify our money and make sure that we cover as much of the state as we possibly can. And this is a small description of what we do. As far as this is a home that was, I believe it was in Sylvester. That was the condition of the home before. And you see what our money can do once we go into the communities and start developing and rehabbing homes. And for this round, we've increased our funding from $300,000 to $400,000 per award for housing, rehab, or reconstruction. For new construction, we've decided to remain at $600,000. And again, it's for income eligible home buyers. Here you see basically a picture of a reconstruction actually, because this was an older unit and they came in and reconstructed the neighborhood. So that's one thing that, you know, kind of protects the value of a community, is being able to go in and develop an area that is dilapidated or blighted or just in need of additional housing for the community. So our 2021 CHIP application goals. It is to award in communities with the capacity to carry out activities, justify the need for those housing activities, and also provide good redevelopment planning. This year, we are awarding $6 million in home funds for 6 owner-occupied housing rehab activities, 4 awards for new construction, and 3 awards for a new set-aside that we developed for this year. And it's for owner-occupied rehab applicants that have not received a CHIP or CDBG Home Repair Grant Award in previous years. For our 2021 CHIP application, you can find the application on the website. This presentation is actually available for you to download if you need to go back through, and if you need to document this this link to the website. Our application was released on September 30th, and we received a lot of calls and emails because we were a little late this year, but fortunately we got it out, so it was released on the 30th, and our applications are due on January 29th, 2021. The goal is to give everyone time to be able to develop a good comprehensive application that can be awarded. So there are 2 application forms. We have our owner-occupied housing rehab and our single-family new construction for home ownership. Applicants can apply for both of the either rehab or new construction, but you will only be awarded for one. And you would submit your application and attachments by email. Sam, do we have any questions? Okay.
I do have questions here.
Okay.
I went ahead and answered a couple because I wanted to be sure that if the people listening to this decided it wasn't for them, that they could tune out before we got too far into it. So I'm going to read over those questions and my responses, and then I have one question for the group that you can answer. So the first one was a question about whether this is a program for individuals looking to purchase a home. So I responded with our Georgia Dream program website, which provides down payment assistance for people and also provides resources for people who are looking to buy a house. And then the second question I got was to develop, hold on a second, I need to scroll down a little bit. Hold on. I got ahead of myself here, sorry.
Okay.
This question says that she is starting a charity to provide multiple tenant housing for widows and otherwise elderly that do not or cannot live on their own but are healthy otherwise. And so I explained that this program is to develop housing for homeowners or to fix up houses for current homeowners. And so we wouldn't be able to use CHIP funds for developing rental housing or developing temporary housing, or transitional housing, excuse me. We do have a number of funding sources that are available to develop rental housing, and if anybody is interested in that part of our financing, I'd be happy to discuss that with you further. Oftentimes, though, we're talking about much larger developments of about 100 to 300 units of rental housing. And so it may not be possible that at a smaller scale, like on a house-by-house basis, we'd be able to provide funding for that. And then lastly, there's a question here for the group that says, Contessa Hope Crutchfield asks, I'm from Sylvester, Georgia, Worth County, and I see that there have won that Sylvester has won the grant a few times. My nonprofit is in Henry County, but I want to do my projects in Sylvester, Georgia. Would this cause a conflict and cause me to be ineligible? And then she says, I would like to do single family new construction. And so I'll just share my thoughts really quick since I read the question in advance.
Okay.
For those applicants or people who are thinking about applying for CHIP, where there is an existing CHIP program that we've just awarded or that we awarded a few years ago that might still have funding, my first thought would be to go to those grantees and see what projects they have in the pipeline and see if you could add into that in some way. So for example, in her example, if the city of Sylvester is looking for a partner to develop housing, this might be a really good fit. As far as I know, Tonya, we don't have scoring criteria that excludes people from applying in an area where we just gave funding. But
No.
yeah, so it's possible that we would, but we might take a discretionary action later to say, well, we've already invested in that area and we may not want to fund it unless it's a really high scoring application. What do you think, Tonya, how would you approach this?
I would look at it as whether or not they would be able to focus on developing that area when they live so far away. Would they be more hands-on? Would they have the ability or the capacity to be hands-on to develop out the project? And like you said, I would also look at what type of funding that's been awarded in Sylvester, because we don't want to saturate Sylvester, especially with it being such a small town. We don't want to saturate that area with too much funding when there are so many other areas that need the funding. And also looking at what type of development is already developed, what type of housing is being developed in Sylvester, because they may already have funding for housing rehab as well as development, because like you said, they have received several awards throughout the years. So it's more of a capacity thing, and that's something that we'll talk about later in our in the presentation as a part of the award, is whether or not they will have the capacity to handle such a development and whether or not there's a need in that area.
Mhm. And I would just add that after this presentation, we have several months where you can contact us directly if you have questions like this, particularly if you look at our award list that we have in the application. And if you have questions about, whether this would be a good fit or how to contact people we've awarded funds to, maybe if you want to get in touch with them and see if you can partner with them. And then, of course, you can always reach out to us staff with questions like this after the presentation too. So we do have one more question that came in, several questions that came in. Let me read through them really quick.
Okay.
Okay, so hold on. So first, LaTonya Powell asked, do you award to multiple nonprofits in one area, for example, Newton County?
I don't think that that's a conflict. I don't see where that would be a problem, especially if there is a need. But again, we would have to look at I would look at the need and how well developed the application is and whether or not we're focusing on the same area. And again, you don't want to over award in certain area when there are other areas that also need the funding and the assistance. So I think we would just have to kind of really pay attention to how many awards we're making in certain rural areas, because we want to focus on making sure that we cover as much of the state as we possibly can, which kind of segues into the new section of the application that we added this year.
Yeah, and I would also add to this too that in the next month or so, it may be smart to talk to the housing providers and partners and local governments in your area and see if people are interested in applying. And maybe you could do a joint application that takes advantage of all of your expertise.
So, yeah, that's an excellent.
So there aren't competing nonprofits applying. You would have to have one applicant apply, but to select the one that might have the best chances with the scoring criteria to score well, and then see how your nonprofits could work together. I know that might be difficult sometimes in some communities to arrange, but that might be a better solution, because what might happen on our end is we'll score the applications. We may make a decision to score one nonprofit over another in the same area, because like Tonya said, we don't want to overload one area of the state with funds when there's a need throughout the state for limited resources. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next question here.
Okay.
So Brenda Wade says that she administers CHIP in Sylvester, so please contact Brenda Wade, and her number is 229-522-3552, and this is in the chat, but I'll repeat it again for you all. 229-522-3552. And then, let's see, Michelle Yan asked a question. She says, do the funds received for new construction and home ownership become a revolving loan fund as the homes are sold? So Tonya, do you want to cover this now, or do you want to talk about that when we get to that part of the presentation?
I don't think that's a part of the presentation. That's more, I'm thinking it's more in training, because that's looking at the program income as far as recycling the money back into the program. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, once they sell the home, the funds would be recycled into purchasing or developing additional affordable housing.
Yeah, that's my understanding of this question too.
Okay. So yeah, once you sell a home, you receive funding for new construction, and you develop the home, you find a home buyer, and you sell the home, you have your seller proceeds. Those proceeds actually go back into, you retain those funds, but you have to continue affordable housing efforts. So you would provide a plan as a new construction developer or a new construction recipient of an award. You would actually provide to us a plan of what you want to do with that program income once you receive it, because we're not going to ask for it back, but we are going to ask that you continue affordable housing efforts if it's providing down payment, or if it's providing building another house, or if it's providing reconstruction or rehab. You have to let us know what you plan on doing with that funding, because it is still essentially federal funding. So we have to make sure that we're following HUD guidelines as it pertains to program income, which is the seller proceeds.
Right. I have two more questions for us.
Okay.
The first question is from Dana Pace, and she says, we are a CDC. Are CHIP funds available to assist with rehabbing homes that are in disrepair so that they can be purchased or restored by CDCs and then rented to low-income individuals? And I believe this may be referred to as scattered site housing.
We don't provide funding for rental. This is strictly for housing rehab and new construction to be sold to income eligible home buyers.
Yeah, and I will add one thing about that. Yes, it's true that we won't develop property to become rental property, but as far as the new construction goes, I did want to make sure people understand that also, so you can build something on vacant property, or you can purchase property and then rehab it and then sell it for home, but it has to be home ownership. It can't be for rental. And then lastly, we have a question from Vivia Dotson. She says, I'm representing Habitat for Humanity Rockdale. Do you award grants to local chapters?
I'm sorry, what was that? I missed the first part.
Do we award funds to local chapters of Habitats for Humanity?
Oh, yes. We have several Habitat for Humanity grantees.
And then her second question is, how can I find which chapters were awarded?
You can contact our office.
And then I've got one more question, then maybe we could stop the questions and move on. Shannon Hervey says, is it permissible to rehab homes and sell them to individuals who otherwise couldn't afford them?
Yes.
Right, I believe that is the intent of this program.
Right. So it's basically doing a acquisition and rehab the program. I'm sorry, acquisition, rehab, and then sell the home to income eligible home buyers. So yes, that is definitely what we're doing with this program.
Okay, well that's a lot of really great questions. I hope that was helpful.
It really was.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so moving forward, new to our CHIP application, we will make 3 awards available to applicants that would normally not receive a CHIP award. The applicant must be a local government, have a need for owner-occupied housing rehab. They cannot have received a CHIP grant or a CDBG grant in the last 10 years, and they also must demonstrate current and or past community development efforts to better improve their community. So basically what we're saying here is that we're looking at those applicants that normally would not receive a CHIP award because they lack the experience, the prior experience, because that has actually kept a lot of areas from receiving an award because of their lack of experience, because of the scoring criteria that we have in place. So what we wanted to do here was make sure that we give them those portions, those local governments, a equal or more equal chance to receive funding. But we're also making this, trying to streamline the scoring as much as we can by asking that they provide a narrative of efforts that they've provided in their communities to kind of give us an idea that they're serious. Even though they lack the experience, they do have the discipline to say, hey, we've already tried to do certain things in our area. Even though we have limited capacity, we have engaged our community to say, hey, we're going to do code enforcement just to make sure that we're taking care of our area, or they're focusing on blighted areas that they're saying, hey, we're going to go in and fix this or demolish it, even though we don't have the extra funding, because we want to take care of our community. So we have additional examples in our application that you can look at, or you may have a unique situation that you've developed in your community to say, hey, this is what we're doing in spite of or despite of the fact that we don't have the funding available. We're going to do what it takes to take care of our community. So we want to focus on those type of unique situations so that we can reach as many areas of local governments that we can to help assist them in their efforts of beautifying or making, not beautifying, but taking care of their community. So our 2021 CHIP applicants are city and county governments, not PJs, as we discussed earlier before our presentation started. PJs are participating jurisdictions that receive their own direct funding from HUD, which are your more major cities and counties. We also provide funding to public housing authorities and nonprofits with 501c3 or C4 designation. Here is a list of our 2021 CHIP here's a list of our 2021 ineligible participating jurisdictions. Again, a PJ, they receive their own direct funding from HUD. So we do have nonprofits and public housing authorities that may apply. And the hope is that with our funding from them, they can add to what they're doing in these participating jurisdictions. But we discourage the PJs from actually applying simply because they receive their own funding from HUD. But if we do award a certain area, it's just only adding to developing that particular city or county. Do we have any questions about that particular portion?
Tonya, we got a few questions in, but they were regarding home ownership questions.
Okay.
So I went ahead and answered that.
Okay.
Travia, thank you for your question. I hope that the Georgia Dream information will be helpful. And if you don't get what you need, then you can contact us directly and we'll try to get something to you. Another question that we just got in from Christian is, agencies from Clayton County cannot apply, ?
Agencies from Clayton County can apply, but we're looking at the PJs, the actual city or counties. They can apply, but we're not awarding, or we're trying to look at the areas outside. But if they submit a application, we will look at it and consider the funding if it is a higher scoring application. So we're not discouraging the nonprofits and the public housing from applying, but we are looking at trying to stay out with the major PJs, trying to not basically double their funding as far as in those particular areas, because they receive a direct allocation themselves. So Sam, did you have any you wanted to add to that?
No, that's all we've got for now.
Oh, okay, perfect. So with our 2021 owner-occupied housing rehabilitation, again, we're awarding up to $400,000 for housing rehab grants. This year, we've increased our limit from $49,000 to $60,000 per home for repairs. A part of the home requirement is that homes cannot just be small minor repairs. They have to be rehab, because for home, the home has to be brought up to all applicable codes. So you have to go in and do a thorough inspection, make sure that you develop the home or rehab the home up to all codes, because that is a home requirement. Also, the $60,000 can be used for lead testing and lead abatement if needed. And so for each home, the awardee is provided $400,000 in project delivery costs for the grantee. So for every project, if you have 6 houses that you're rehabbing, you receive $4,000 for each activity. And funds are provided to the homeowner as a 0% interest 5-year forgivable loan. So for homeowners, they do receive a lien against their property, and it's only for 5 years, and it is forgiven each year. So the point of placing the lien on the property is that you don't want them to move or sell their home time it's rehab so that they can profit from it. The purpose of home is always to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing and continue affordability in that particular area. The goal is affordable homes, period. So that is kind of the makeup of the home program, is keeping homes affordable. So for our single family development grants, we provide up to $600,000 for housing construction per award. 5% per home is provided in project delivery costs to the grantee. 15% or up to $20,000 is provided for your developer. And for the home buyer subsidy, which is considered what makes the home affordable for the homeowner, is the difference between the price of a home and the mortgage. We can provide up to $14,999. We keep that at that limit because if it goes over, if it's $15,000 or more, it would be a 10-year lien. And again, we're not trying to overstress the home buyer, and over subsidize the home buyer by giving them too much money to secure their home. So we provide up to that $14,000 limit, and there's a 5-year lien on this property as well. And again, that is a home regulation requirement. If it goes over 14.9, then it becomes a 10-year lien. So if your home buyer wants to move within that 5 years, they would have to pay a portion of the loan back, but it gives them an opportunity to move forward without that 10-year lien, because a lot of times people just want to have that experience of being a first-time home buyer, developing the responsibilities of being a first-time home buyer, and then life may increase for them, and we want to provide them an opportunity to be able to move forward. And again, we don't want to over subsidize the home buyer as well. The grantee, and I'm sorry, this was a part of, I didn't realize this was a part of our presentation, is that the grantee recycles sales proceeds into affordable housing. So that is, again, what we talked about, the program income portion of it, which is basically the sale proceeds, and it has to go back into providing affordable housing. And also another regulation is that the homes must be sold within 9 months of the completion of a home. If it is not sold within 9 months, then the home converts to a rental, and you have to rent the property out and let us know as far as the development of how that's going and reporting. That again is a home regulation that we are required to follow. So the format of the CHIP application, the 2021 CHIP application, again, we have owner-occupied application and a single-family home construction application. So this year we also are doing 2 scoring sheets as a part of the application. So you have complete your application and also self-score yourself. And again, you can apply for both, but only one will be selected. And you have to submit your application form and all of the attachments by email by January 29, 2021. So looking at our CHIP application scoring, we have supposed to be 4 categories. The budget and leverage actually goes along with the match portion because your leverage is your match. You also have capacity, need, as well as planning. And we also added a feature where we're providing up to 6 points for as a bonus. So general information about, and with the first portion of your application is your general information, your budget, and your leverage. So we want to look at your contact information. Please make sure that you provide your you complete all portions of the application. We're also looking at your proposed activity and whether or not it is something that can be actually accomplished within your budget and what you're providing as leverage. Your leverage is your match. It's your cash or your in-kind sources, such as your land value, waived permit fees, dedicated staff, etc. Whatever you want to add in as leverage to meet and show us that you are serious about your application and that you're willing to add some of your resources into this budget to make sure that you can make it work. Some tips is list appropriate contact people for questions, as we said before, with your contact information, and email DCA for grant administrators recommendations. So we have some wonderful grant administrators out there that are excellent resources. So if you need to, if you're looking at the application and you see that you cannot you don't have the staff available or you don't have the staffing experience, please contact our office and we can contact our grant administrators and provide you with resources or contacts to our grant administrators. And most of our grant administrators have been working with the program for years. And as I've said before, they have done excellent work over the years. So they're a great resource to reach out to. So the second category is our capacity. The applicant's experience, we're looking at the applicant's experience with the grant activity. The applicants must be able to demonstrate the projects, their previous or past projects were completed on budget and met the performance objectives that they were looking at. And also very, very important is to provide a detailed narrative of your past experiences and with your past projects and the objectives to make sure that you met your budget as well as you accomplish what you set out to accomplish. Because what we want to see is that when we're looking at providing funding, we want to know that you will be able to adhere to our CHIP program and our CHIP program deadlines and for our grant, because this is just a 2-year award cycle. So also looking at your staff experience, which would lend itself to your capacity. Are you working with a grant administrator that lends itself to your capacity to be able to complete your program, because again, they have the experience. Also, again, we want to say as far as your staff experience, attach a narrative, provide resumes and the procurement process in securing your grant administrator. For our 2021 capacity with the new portion with the owner-occupied rehab set aside, we would like to see a very detailed narrative and photos of community development efforts. We want to see how you engage your community, also provide community-wide improvements for residents. Extra priority will be given to communities that demonstrate partnerships with local organizations for community development. So as a government, if you're working with Habitat or if you're working with nonprofits or any type of organizations in your area, just to show that you didn't have the resource, the funding, extra funding from different areas to assist you, but you took the effort to move forward and seek out extra opportunities to enhance your community. And also extra priority would be given to providing assistance in distressed areas or underserved populations. So if you, again, looked at code enforcement for certain areas, if you decided to do demolition of blighted areas, that's something that, again, you took upon, use your own resources to make your communities better. And also another section that we're looking at is that you have not received any federal or state assistance within the last 10 years, so that, again, we want to be able to look at those communities and provide assistance to those communities that need the resources from the state but haven't been able to receive them because of limited experience. So for our next category is need. What we're looking at is you have developed a target area, a community or a city or a county that you want to focus on and provide assistance. So you would attach your narrative and a map to show those targeted areas. Your geographic priority, looking at underfunded areas, we have an appendix attached to the to your application that provides a list of all the previous CHIP awards, so you can know whether or not the area that you are looking to develop or assist has not received a CHIP grant or has received a CHIP grant in the last, I believe it goes up to 10 years. And we're also giving priority to federally declared disaster areas, because as you know, Georgia has experienced a lot of disasters, tornadoes and hurricanes and flooding. So we want to make sure that we focus in on providing assistance in those distressed areas. We're also looking at the poverty rate. We have a DCA website tool that was also included. The link to the mapping tool was included in the application, and we're providing more points for higher poverty rates for owner-occupied rehab. We receive calls and emails daily for homeowners that need this assistance. It is heart-wrenching because you have all of these homeowners that pour out their life story every day, and you have to read it. And, you know, there's not much that we can do because we're not direct assistance to homeowners, but you want to be able to say as much as you possibly can is that we have funding available in your area. Please contact this CHIP recipient in your area, your government, your nonprofits, or your public housing authority. That's what we want to do with this program because there is an incredible need. And we're also providing lower more points for lower poverty rate for the new construction. So this is the website to the mapping tool. If you have the application, again, the link is included. And also, if you download this presentation PowerPoint, you should be able to click the link to the mapping tool, and it will provide you with the resources that you need in order to complete your application. Another portion of the need is we look at the current housing conditions. For the owner-occupied rehab, again, we're looking at a detailed narrative that provides photos of the area that you want to provide assistance, because we want to see that we want you to show us that there is a need for the rehab, and we also would like to see the area that you're looking to rehab and to demonstrate that the need is actually there. And for the real estate development need portion, you need to provide a market analysis to make sure that you're looking at whether or not there is a need or that there is a market for the new construction. So current housing conditions. For owner-occupied home repair applications, you want to ask yourself or ask your community, is there a need for owner-occupied home repairs in the targeted area? Again, that goes back to why we are requesting a detailed narrative along with photos so that we can see with you that there is a need and that the CHIP funding will be put to great use. For the new construction, you want to ask your community, should the state invest in creating single-family affordable housing in your target area? Is there a market for new construction in your targeted area? You want to make sure that you provide to us that there is a need, that the homes that you construct will not be on the market for a year or 6 months or more, that you do have the market or the home buyers available to purchase these homes, because sometimes in rural communities, it would be nice to see new homes in that rural community, but do you have the market for those homes? Is your community ready for new construction? Will it bring in home buyers? Do they have the capacity, the funding to be able to secure a loan to actually purchase these homes? So those are the things you have to make sure that you show us that you have the capacity to actually sell these homes, and also demonstrate to us that there is a true need in your area for new construction. And some of the things that we'll look at is the current housing stock doesn't meet demand, median home value is unaffordable, and the quality neighborhood amenities, we will need a narrative to show what else are you providing in that particular neighborhood to bring in the home buyers. What else is available? Sam, do we have any more questions?
So we did receive a question, but I went ahead and answered it. It
Okay.
was a question from Tonya about if there are any itemized lists of counties that may be eligible for the CHIP program. And I explained that all Georgia county governments are eligible to apply for CHIP, except those counties that are receiving HUD home funds directly from HUD. So these are called the home participating jurisdictions, or PJs. And if you are not sure, if you listen, all of you listeners, if you're not sure if your city or county is receiving HUD funds directly, you can always email us and we can let you know. And then to just reiterate that we do accept applications from nonprofits and public housing authorities within those cities and counties, just not the counties and cities directly. And then just a general email address for anybody on this call, it'll come to us, and it's where you'll submit the application ultimately, is the CHIP email address. So that's chip@dca.ga.gov. So chip@dca.ga.gov will get to us. Thanks. Bye. Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
that's the only question that we got in.
Okay, good. So this is our last section of the application, and it's our planning section. So we will provide up to 5 points for participating in the GIG program, and that's through a collaboration with DCA and the University of Georgia. And we provided the website initial page so that you can go in. I know a part of this is the GIG. I'm not as familiar with GIG because I'm just learning a little bit more about GIG, but it actually is in phases where you graduate each, I guess each year, or you have certain phases that you start off as a sophomore or a freshman and you graduate through the program. And it's just a good way to provide community development in your area and to work with different communities throughout the state and form. It's a good resource for your communities, and it is helpful because, again, it's a collaboration with DCA, so we look highly on those that do actually participate. And we also have a affordable housing plan as a part of the planning section. And with the criteria for the affordable housing plan, we have points for each criteria, and there are 5 criteria. And we've divided it this year for a separate criteria for nonprofits and public housing authorities, and a housing plan for local governments. Because what we found was that the housing authority and nonprofits have different requirements as far as not having to necessarily get board approval from the local government. So we wanted to make sure that we gave each one a equal playing field when it came to the award and developing out their affordable housing plan, because a lot of times I think it was confusing for our nonprofits to try to meet what the governments were already doing. So we took the opportunity to divide it up and try to make it a little bit more fair for each organization across the board. So we have a list of CHIP attachments that we require, and this is included in your application, but we wanted to give you a chance to just look at it again and just know that it has to be submitted in PDF format. We ask that you submit it in this, the way that it's presented so that way when we're looking at it and we're adding it, we can kind of go through it as far as the way that the application format is. You're presenting your attachments in the same format, in the same organized way. So, and also what is major is that you label each attachment, so we can clearly see what you're trying to present in each category. So a lot of times we have to look through and kind of scroll through to find the information for the experience or find the information for the current housing conditions. So we want to make sure that each attachment is clearly labeled and that you're actually explaining what we're requesting, so that way it doesn't hinder your award in the end because we couldn't find the information. So you want to make sure that you're very clear and detailed in providing your attachments. So our submission, again, our deadline is January 29th, 2021. We request that if you need a Word version of the application, let us know and we can send it to you. But what we're requesting is that you submit your application and attachments as a PDF by email to our CHIP email address. The application cannot exceed 10 megabytes. That's the limit. And also with each application, there is a $250 application fee. And you would pay that, of course, through the mail. Just send a check in. And remember, if you decide to send in an application for owner occupied and new construction, each one of those applications will be a separate $250 fee. And again, we only award for one. So if you choose to submit for both, it will still be $500, even though we can only award one. So the next steps are we'll conduct our scoring. Once the applications come in, we'll start scoring in February, between February and March. We'll try to make our awards in March. We normally provide awardee training. This year it was interesting because normally our training is in person. And this year, with it being my first year and in the midst of a pandemic, we actually provided the training online. So we will more than likely, if needed, we're equipped and we may do the training online. Our contracting phase will be in April through July, and our grant activities should start on August 1st. So we have a 2-year program, and it runs from August until July, and we start the process all over again with the next year. Here's a list of our CHIP contacts. Of course, me as the Community Housing Program Manager or CHIP Manager. This is my contact information, my director, her contact information, and once you get into the program, then we'll add our CHIP specialist. And again, we have our email for CHIP at dca.ga.gov. And also our CHIP website is included, and this is something that if you download this PowerPoint, you should be able to pull the link up. So that concludes our presentation, and we're right at 11 o'clock. So hopefully we covered all of the questions during our presentation. And again, if you want to stay on, and I don't know how long this webinar can last, but if you would like to, if you have any additional questions, you can contact me directly, or you can feel free to ask them now, or let us know if you want to stay on for a second and have a quick discussion. So, Sam, you can stop recording.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.